everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Alicia Warwick, Executive Director of the Recording Academy Nashville Chapter.
And I'm Qiana Conley, your Los Angeles Chapter Executive Director of the Recording Academy. We are thrilled that the Los Angeles and Nashville chapters were able to partner in this collaborative songwriters panel on Facebook Live. We are in one of the most challenging yet dynamic eras in our country's history, and we are at a great creative moment for key music creators like the global songwriting community. As part of the world's leading artistic community, you music creators do great things with your words. You tell mankind's forgotten stories. You inspire hope when challenges arise. And you demand change through melody, harmony, and the universal language of music. As music professionals, we know the power of one voice. But in this election year, we must make sure every voice is heard at the ballot box. That's why the Recording Academy is partnering with Headcount to make sure it's simple, easy, and fast for music creators and professionals to register to vote. National Voters Registration Day was just last week, but you can help us today and get the vote out by sharing the hashtag Music Votes campaign with other music creators and professionals and make sure we are all voter ready. Every day, our advocacy office in Washington, D.C. continues to work to ensure songwriters receive fair payment. So next month, we will be offering a webinar to help make sure you get all the mechanical royalties due to you when the new Mechanical Licensing Collective, the MLC, launches. Make sure you follow Grammy Advocacy on Twitter and Facebook to hear about this program and other ways the Academy is working for songwriters' rights.
Thank you, Qiana. During this conversation, we have the opportunity to hear from some of the most talented songwriters in music business in multiple genres. Songwriters create the music that provides security and connection, especially during a pandemic. The melodies and words written by many of our panelists have no doubt comforted and lifted your spirits on many occasions. Therefore, we want to really highlight our creators that are making their mark in a cross-genre world. They're writing songs that transcend their markets and speaking to a larger audience. We hope you enjoy hearing about the craft, the creative process, and crossover success from our panelists this afternoon. And I'm really happy to welcome to Facebook Live our Recording Academy members in Nashville, Los Angeles, and across the nation, music industry guests and fans of music everywhere, to conversations, cross-genre collaborations, and songwriting.
Now, we invite some of the most exciting voices and pens in pop, country, rock, and R&B music to talk about topics important to them, share their experience, and give us their thoughts on the future of songwriting. Let's kick off the conversation with our first panelist. He is an 8-time Grammy Award-winning songwriter, producer, performer, personality, and comedian in his own right, and best known for his decade-plus collaboration with Bruno Mars as a performer and songwriter. Bruno puts it best when he says, every song that you've heard me sing, every song they said I produced with Philip Lawrence. I've written with Philip Lawrence. He is my writing partner, my right-hand man. These collaborations include That's What I Like, Uptown Funk, Just the Way You Are, Grenade, When I Was Your Man, Treasure, and Locked Out of Heaven, just to name a few. His songwriting credits include Adele's All I Ask, CeeLo Green's F.U., B.O.B.'s Nothing on You, and Travie McCoy's Billionaire, as well as the songwriter and voice character for Felipe on It's a Jungle Out Here in Rio 2. He's currently the lead songwriter and co-music producer of Netflix's first original movie musical entitled Jingle Jangle, starring Forest Whitaker, Phylicia Rashad, and Keegan-Michael Key, slated for release in November 2020. Doing this all while building a multimedia venture that combines music, film, television, and theater with his new production company, Community Culture. He's also the current owner and CEO of the legendary Record Plant Studios in Hollywood, California. Join me in welcoming Philip Lawrence.
And this 2-time Grammy-winning nominee is the only female country artist to hit #1 with her first 3 consecutive singles from a debut album. She has won 2 ACM Awards and took home the iHeartRadio Music Awards honor for the Best New Artist. In 2019, she received a CMA nomination for Female Vocalist of the Year, along with an American Music Award nomination for Female Country Artist. Please welcome the Grand Ole Opry's youngest current member, Kelsea Ballerini.
Our next panelist is a 3-time Grammy-winning songwriter and producer. He's worked with everyone from Adele to Paul McCartney, Beyonce, the Jonas Brothers, Taylor Swift, Alicia Keys, John Legend, and Anita. He's a producer and mentor on the NBC show Songland, and he's the founding member, lead singer, writer, and producer for the band One Republic. They released their debut album, Dreaming Out Loud, in 2007, which included the smash single, Apologize. The band's albums, Waking Up, Native, and Oh My My, produced hit singles, All the Right Moves, Secrets, and Good Life, as well as the #1 and 33 million selling song, Counting Stars. One Republic has amassed 5 billion streams on Spotify to date. Join me in welcoming our next panelist, Ryan Tedder.
Yay, Ryan. Yay. This is going to be amazing. This 4-time AMA winner is the only artist in history to notch 2 titles in the genre's top 5 most streamed songs of all time with Heaven and What Ifs, both record-setting tracks from his self-titled album, which was certified 5-time platinum, making him one of only 5 country artists to achieve that certification twice. In 2018, the Associated Press named him Breakthrough Artist of the Year, and Time Magazine included him as one of 31 people changing the South. The ACM, People's Choice, iHeartRadio, CMT, and Billboard Music Awards nominated artist has recently crossed into mainstream radio through collaborations with DJ Marshmello and Khalid. I'm happy to welcome Kane Brown.
And our moderator for today's conversation is a multi-platinum songwriter, producer, and creative executive who has most notably worked with Beyonce on the Grammy Award-winning song Halo, with Rihanna, Madonna, Lizzo, and Britney Spears, amongst others. Son of Casablanca Records founder Neil Bogart, he began his career at Interscope, A&Ring albums for Tupac and Eminem, before stints as artist manager and booking agent for Maroon 5 and One Republic, respectively. And he also signed 2-time Grammy Producer of the Year nominee Ricky Reed and blues rock singer ZZ Ward to his own ventures. He has served as the Los Angeles chapter board as president and previously as vice president and chair of the Professional Development Committee, in addition to successfully leading the campaign to include songwriters in the Grammy Album of the Year category. And now, the Los Angeles chapter president, Evan Bogart.
You guys.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. First of all, these credits are just like seriously, I'm so massively inspired by all of you. And it's really just an honor to be moderating this panel. You guys are so brilliant. So thank you for doing this. First things first, let's go back. I just want to go way, way back, and we'll start with Philip. Let's take it back to the beginning of your creative journey. When did you write your first song? Do you remember your first song?
Ooh, first song. What's up, everybody? Nice to see everyone. Nice to meet you all. First song, I think first song was in high school. I wrote a song for a girl, and I remember that song. It was called "Angel in Disguise." Angel in disguise, on you my heart relies. A little flat, but yeah. It was the first song I ever wrote, and but it's funny. I wrote it. I didn't write it with the intention of becoming a songwriter. Songwriting kind of happened to me way, way later in life. I always wanted to be on stage and performing, and I kind of found songwriting through the frustration of not being the artist that I wanted to be, and all right, let me just see what other skills I have to kind of help push the journey along a little bit. But high school. How long was
the bridge from when you were writing to when you became a songwriter, where you were conscious of the fact that I'm writing songs for people or for myself?
A long time. Yeah, I mean, maybe 15 years or so. I used to live in Orlando, working at Disney World. Shout out Mickey Mouse, you know what I'm saying? Writing checks. And I started working with a couple of producers there. And I remember one of the guys said, hey man, because I was there to sing a demo for a song. And he said, have you ever written a song before? I was like, no, maybe in high school. And he was like, I'm gonna give you a track and then leave the room and then come back and see if you got something. So he played me this track and I wrote a song in like 30 minutes, right? I had no idea what I was doing, but I just like took to it. And I think that was the first moment that I was like, oh, maybe there's more to me than, this singer or performer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Kelsey, do you remember your first song?
I do. Hi, everybody.
Philip set the bar really. Everybody's gonna have to perform their first song, I think now. Sorry.
I was 12, and it was the day before Mother's Day. I forgot it was Mother's Day and felt terrible and hadn't got my mom anything, and I wrote her a song instead. It was called Oh Mama, and it had like no form to it. I had never tried to write a song ever before, but we always do this thing called a gift of the heart where I'll draw her a picture or whatever. And that was my version of doing that year. And the only thing I really remember is the next day singing it to her like a cappella and her crying and me thinking, I like this.
Yeah, I can make people cry for my songs. I like this.
Yeah, I like that. I just made her feel this and on this level. So, yeah, I've gone back a few times and tried to edit it, but it's you can't save it.
No. Is it like, was it a long time before you were writing songs for yourself as an artist? Were you thinking about that?
I always wanted to be an artist because I always wanted like my songs to be out there and I wanted to be the one telling my own story. But I've always also been open to helping people tell theirs as well. So I kind of didn't know which would come first, the chicken or the egg. I was like, I'm open. And just luckily by fate, I got to have the artist card thrown my way first. So I've always been the one to be able to tell my own, which has been a gift.
That is cool.
Yeah. Kane,
do you remember your first song?
Yeah, there's nothing to talk about. First one I ever wrote was my first single I ever released. And at the time, I was like, it's awesome. And now looking back on it, I'm like, I wish I never put that out.
So for you, writing was like a means for a career right off the bat. It wasn't like something where you just like did it for a friend or mom or something like that. You were just like, I'm going to write a song because I'm putting it out.
Yeah, I kind of got thrown into everything, because I got started on social media, went viral and immediately had to release music and went on tour with Florida Georgia Line. Had no idea what I was doing. So I've just kind of had to kind of adapt and find my own, find myself as the years progress.
That's cool. Talk about being thrown into the fire, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, figure it out, kid. So you're not going to sing us your song? No?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I ain't going to say the title.
Philip, you're scaring everybody. No one wants to step up. Ryan, do you remember your first song?
I do. The first song, similar to Kane, the first song that I completed ended up, that's how I got a record deal. Like, it's so crazy. I wrote starting at 15 until I was about 18 or 19, probably 200, 300 songs that I wouldn't finish because I was like, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And then I finally wrote one that I thought was good enough. And I would always play stuff for girls and be like, I'm working on it. I would never like do the whole thing. And then the first song that I actually wrote completely, I was probably 18. And I was living in Nashville. And Evan, you know this story, but I'll just cut to it. I was working in a plant at Hollywood, and there was a audition for a win a record deal on TRL. This is back when TRL was like a thing. And NSYNC had it involved in it, and Brian McKnight and Pink and all this stuff. And so I went up, played an original song, made it to the next round, flew to New York, and then ended up performing it on TRL. So it's on YouTube, which is embarrassing as hell because it's really not a great song, but it's it's there forever. So I guess that's cool. And it's called The Look. And I won the precursor. This is like the same year that American Idol existed, but it was like MTV doing its own thing. And I ended up winning that. And yeah, so it kind of in a way, it launched my career. And then went back to Nashville. It helped me get writing sessions. And up and down Music Row. So that was cool.
So that's interesting. Like your process, like prior to going back to Nashville and getting those sessions, like did your process change over the years? Like you're obviously were just, all of you were probably just winging it at the time, right? And so like what's your process now? How has your process like progressed over the years as far as like writing on a daily basis?
My process has changed tremendously and gone through different methods. Initially it was, you know, I'm an only child. I was not the type of person to join a band and suck in public for 5 years before you get good, which is like, I hear Dave Grohl talk about doing that. And I'm envious of artists that can get on stage and play bad songs. I was like, no, I can't do any of that. I can't get on stage until I know the songs are good. And at the time though, I wrote a lot of solo stuff. I discovered Diane Warren when I was 13, 14. My dad told me about this writer, Diane Warren, who had written every major song in the late 80s and 90s, like the biggest hits of all time. And she wrote them 100% by herself. So I literally thought that that's what songwriting was. I didn't even know about collaboration. Co-writing wasn't in my vernacular. I didn't understand it. So, and Evan, you were probably one of the only people, I mean, you know this, that like initially that I co-wrote with. I didn't co-write. It was just like you and I would sit and hang and talk because we just made each other laugh. And then like we'd write Halo or like write a song for Ashley Tisdale or whatever. And but for the most part, my methodology my first co-write I ever had was with the dude from Eagle Eye Cherry, you know, save tonight, fight the break of dawn, that guy. And I hated it because I was so awkward. So that sent me further into writing by myself. So my method over the last, let's say 17 years went from the early days in Los Angeles, 2003, at Nashville for 2 years, 2003 to 2008, I was in LA and touring in One Republic. So for the most part, unless I was physically in the room collaborating with an artist, I was writing by myself. So all the One Republic stuff, you know, up until honestly, you know, Counting Stars. After that song, that was the last one that was just like me. And it wasn't because I had a head about it. It's like I didn't trust it. If I was like bringing a bunch of people into the fold, I didn't trust the process. And then after 2015, I dove headfirst into the more collaboration, the better. And so that's my methodology now is like, man, it's lonely sitting in a room, in a hotel room, trying to write whatever by yourself. And now I try to collaborate with as many different people and genres and just situations as possible. The only thing I don't like doing is the same thing I did yesterday. That's my new method. Never try to repeat the same thing over and over again.
I feel you. Phil, I mean, you've obviously had one of the most iconic pop collaborations, I mean, I think in the history of pop music. You and Bruno obviously had an amazing run, but you also write a lot. You also write a lot of stuff on your own as well. Like how important is collaboration to you versus writing stuff on your own? Do you feel like one is a better process than the other?
Yeah, you know, I I'm a lot like you, Ryan. I love collaboration. You know, I think that the more minds in the room, the better. However, they have to be the right minds. And for me, it's all about the energy. It's all about the vibe in the room, man. You know, you can have 6, 7 people in there and, you know, if the vibe is wrong, it doesn't matter. Or you can have 5 of the greatest songwriters ever, but if they're not all in the same space, then, you know, nothing's probably gonna come of it. So I think early on, you know, when Bruno and I got together, you know, who's been my main collaborator over the years, that's what clicked for us. It was like, we like kicking it. We like hanging out with each other. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of those songs that we've written were really just an extension of our conversations, you know, us hanging out and talking about situations or going out and partying or whatever it was. You know, it was the hang that created, you know, the hit. From the hang to the hit. Yeah. A little something that.
I like that.
You know, but I think that, you know, collaboration has been key for me. And it is, man, you know, by yourself, it's a very solitary kind of lonely thing. So I love getting people in the room together.
But collaboration, to me, it's all about the chemistry, right? And like, that's the hang, right? It's all about the chemistry you have with people. You know, when you're looking at an artist, Kelsea, like yourself, who works with a ton of different writers, like how important is it for you to like dive in with a lot of the same people over and over again to build that chemistry versus try someone new, like someone who's you know, you've heard is amazing, like, and how hard is it to like kind of break into that crew, right? You know, I know I was down at, you guys at that house down at the beach or whatever, and I was down working with Morgan, and right after we left, you had this camp there, and it was like this crew of people who are like always writing with you, like it's that core crew. So like, how do you balance that between the same people and that chemistry and that hang versus trying new people and you know?
I think there's value in both. Like, I think when I first started writing, I was so young and I was in Knoxville, and I didn't have access to a co-writer, you know? So I got really comfortable writing by myself. And like Tedder was saying, that can be super isolating. And so when I got to Nashville, all I wanted to do was get in a room with people that were better than me. Like, and still to this day, that's all I wanted. And I found this crew, because, you know, at the time, like, I was in college, I couldn't get in the room with a hit songwriter to save my life. So I just kind of found this up and coming crew that was around my same age, and we were all hungry. And they were the ones that we'd write till 3 a.m. every day of the week. And we were friends and we became family. And they're the ones that helped me, you know, write my first whole album, but really the songs that really changed my life, like Peter Pan and Love Me Like You Mean It and all that stuff. So I really kept that sentiment through my second album of just like, this is my comfort zone. This is where I feel safe. This is where I feel like it's worked. So I want to keep seeing it work, hopefully. And it wasn't until this third album where I was like, I think it's time. Like, I think I really rooted myself enough to try and see what else I can do, and see who I can get in the room with now, and see who will pick up the phone and work with me. And it was so much fun to not only work with other songwriters on my bucket list, but other artists too, like Ryan and like Julia Michaels and Ed Sheeran, and people that have a different entire perspective into songwriting than just another songwriter as well. So I think both. I think there's value to saying, this is my crew, you know, ride or die. And there's also value to saying, what else? Can I grow? Can I change this? Can I evolve here? And I think it's been a really interesting lesson for me, and something that I hope I always keep a balance of.
Who is the crew? Who's the ride or die?
Well, Forrest and Whitehead, I give most of the credit to. Forrest and Whitehead and Jason Massey were like my brothers the first 2 albums, making both. Yeah.
Cool. Kane, do you have like a crew that you write with? Is that like, are you very insular? Are you taking like collaborating with a lot of different people?
Man, I got a little crew in Nashville that every one of my number ones was their first one or their only number ones that they have. Mine are like a huge shout out to Matt McGinn. I think he's got 4 of my 5 number ones. And then like Chase McGill, he just had, I think it was last year, he had 3 back to back, but I was his second. And then Will Weatherly, I was his first number 1. Lindsey Rhymes, his first number 1. So it was just, we've got a young team that, you know, hasn't been out there long. A lot of people haven't heard their words. So, you know, that's just kind of what we've been running with.
That's cool. So you found a bunch of new people and you guys kind of came up together, which is really cool.
Yeah, I haven't had a number 1 from anybody that's been in the game for a long time.
That's really cool. Ryan, do you work with new people all the time too, right? Like you have your crew, you have your team producers signed to you.
Yeah.
But there's new people. Like who are you loving right now? Who are you working with that's new that you love?
I mean, there's quite a few. Funny enough, Kane, I was texting with Charlie Handsome like an hour ago, like just about working with you. We've had like 3 people trying to get Kane and I together in a session for the last 3 months. So that's coming.
We did it. Here it is.
We did it. Now it is. Here it is, man. Come on, bring it. Yeah, so I'd say new writers that I've been working on. I mean, like since COVID, I've written more songs in 6 months and I'm not exaggerating, than in the previous 3 years, just because the Zoom thing, some people hate it. Julia Michaels, for instance, hates it. I've done a couple with her and she's like, I've got to be in the room, the energy. And I'm with the energy too. The funny thing about Zoom writing is it cuts out a lot of the fat that happens in sessions. Now, some of that fat I love, but it forces you to be a little more efficient, and also the what was I going to say, the buy-in is lower, like the stakes are lower when you're doing a Zoom session, so you're more apt to try different things. So since coronavirus, the people I've written with the most, who some are new, some are been around longer than I have, I would say Monsters and Strangers, who are like my brothers at this point, Michael Pollock, Nisha. I've done a lot of stuff with All Day, Greg All Day, who's all over a bunch of projects right now.
Great.
He's phenomenal. And then last but not least, I'd say Ilya. The first, I've worked with Max Martin off and on, but not so much with his crew. And Ilya and I really hit it off. And then there's Ray, who's a UK writer out of London. Her sister Abby, who's like 16, 17, her younger sister, has knocked me out in the last 30 days. So shout out to Abby Keene. She is ridiculous, singer, top liner, you name it. Yeah, so I'm trying to, like, literally the more different, the better. And every day, and then Rami Yakub, who wrote "Hit Me Baby One More Time," and like, Max Martin's original partner from back in the day, he just jumped back into songwriting like crazy in the last 12 months. And he and I,
amazing.
We're thick as thieves. So yeah, every day right now I'm trying to mix it up, but I have my crew mostly. And Charlie Handsome, I've done probably 4 or 5 with him since COVID.
Well, that's actually a good transition, because the question that everybody asks all the time is, how are you staying creative during coronavirus, during COVID, right? Phil, like, what's working for you? What's not working for you? What's working for your writers? Like, I think everybody wants to know, like, how do I stay inspired? I mean, we talk about the hang, we talk about the energy being in the room. While you cut out the fat, and you certainly cut out the drive time or people showing up late to sessions, although some people show up late to the Zoom sessions too. But I can't imagine going on forever without the hang, without the energy. So, like, how are you making COVID writing happen?
I mean, Ryan, you've been busy, man. Okay. I need to up my game, bro. Tonight. No. Wait, tonight. I'm on some bullshit. Let's get to it. Yeah, I need to work on that. It's funny, man. This has been such an interesting time. And for me, it's just kind of brought into sharp focus what I really want to work on. I think I can understand in terms of, like, cutting the fat. I think for me, it's really just been cutting the fat of the rat race of going out and kind of doing everything, which is kind of my normal, MO, to, like, all right, what's really important to me? What really moves me? What excites me if I'm gonna, really divulge my time into it now. But honestly, creatively, I've been focusing on 2 things: my family, hella much on my family. That's been, like, super, at the top of the list for me. But I've also been working on this movie. Netflix is doing their first musical that's coming out in November. And I've always wanted to work on a musical. I've always kind of had it in the back of my mind. I was in plays and stuff, in the early years. And I finally got this opportunity and, met with this director, and he had this amazing story, about finding belief in yourself again. So I got to work on this movie. And so in COVID, the Zoom sessions, we were fortunate that the majority of the recording was done just like by March, just before the shutdown happened. So a lot of what's been happening now is more post stuff. But simultaneously to that, I started a record label, and we put out our first act, and he's like an official product of the pandemic. And so, this is all he knows is, like, Zoom and virtual, we're resilient, right? Like, we find a way to enjoy what it is that we do. Like, I'm so grateful to still be writing and creating and, having people, like, answer the phone, like they want to work with me, like, that still baffles me that, I can still be working after all these years, So I think for me, it's more about making sure people around me are taken care of and that they're staying creative. But be looking out for Jingle Jangle. It's coming out in November in theaters for a little short time, but mostly on Netflix.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. And Kelsey, are you, I feel like, from my friends in Nashville, I feel like people are collaborating more in person in Nashville than LA. I feel like LA is still kind of locked down and stuff. Are you still able through COVID to stay creative with your crew?
I am. I'm lucky or unlucky. I'm not sure which one it is, but I'm not making a record right now. I just put one out. So I was able to kind of unlucky because I put it out like the week the world shut down, which was just unfortunate, but lucky because I'm not trying to make an album right now. I'm just having this time to kind of figure out what's next, which is a luxury to have all this time to create. And one silver lining for me that's come out of it, I also hate Zoom writes. I haven't done one because a lot, like all of you said, like the conversation in the first hour and a half of the writes the song for me. Like that to me is, you're going to get a song or you're not, or you're going to get a song that like actually means something or you're not, you know? And so for me, I miss that too much to forego it. But I think I've started to trust myself as a solo writer again, because like I said earlier, like when I moved to Nashville, I just wanted to write with Shane McAnally. I wanted to write with all these people that, like I said, are better than me and that I could learn from. And Hillary Lindsay, who's like my songwriting god. She's just a freak. She's so good. And I think I've just over the years started to trust myself less and less, because I wanted to bring this idea that I love to these people that would make it better, you know? And I think the last few months I've kind of just gone back into the habit of, okay, yeah, no, this is good, and you did it by yourself, and whether anyone ever hears it or not, I'm glad I'm getting back to that place of trusting myself as a solo songwriter, because then I think whenever things do open back up for in-person collaborations, like I'll be stronger because of it. So that's a silver lining for sure.
When you're writing by yourself, are you thinking of genre when you write? Like, is it always for you? Are you thinking like, I'm just going to write a great song, and if it works for me, it'll obviously be more country? Like you said, you collaborated with Ryan, you collaborated with Julia. Like, how important is genre to you when you're writing?
I don't think about it when I'm writing, especially anymore. I think I was a little more like cautious in the beginning. I don't think about it anymore because I have found that the people that listen to my music, listen to Kane's music, listen to Conan Gray's music, listen to Casey Musgrave's music, listen to people are finding that music is music. And I think being a part of, you know, a generation and a time in music where those lines are being crossed more and blended more, it helps stigmas go away. It helps, you know, people have different audiences than they would have had otherwise. I think it's an exciting time. I don't even know if that was the question. I went on a tangent. Sorry.
No, that's tight, but it's fine. No, it was. I mean, like, I just think from you know, obviously we want to talk about crossing genres and writing, and all four of you have been really successful in doing so. I mean, you wrote with Ed as well. You had a collaboration with the Chainsmokers. Like, how do you feel about crossing like genres? I mean, like, do you feel like you need to stay true to your audience? Do you feel like people are more open to the collaboration between genres right now?
I do think people are more open to it, and it's because of the collaborations that are happening that people are becoming more open to it. But like when I think of Shania or Faith or Garth or Dolly, like I think of them as mainstream artists. They crossed over and they did it with their own music, and obviously it was country music, but it wasn't so much labeled that way. And I think that's what we're finding right now in country with Kane and myself and Marin. Like, we're able to kind of grow out of just one thing and become just an artist, you know? And I think that's a beautiful thing as a songwriter and an artist, to just be free in that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think we grew up in like a different era where like genre isn't as prevalent as it was for like the era before us, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's just like this playlist generation where everybody listens to everything. So,
and I think it's important to be mindful. Like, you know, I'm a country artist. I will always be a country artist. I write country music. It's my kind of country. Some people don't think it's country. That's okay too. You know, like I will always be very mindful and respectful to where I come from and what I've worked hard to like build my platform in and my foundation in. But I also think that doesn't mean that we can't go other places too.
Right. Kane, you're killing it in the cross genre game right now, right? Like you have your sound, but also like Marshmello, John Legend, Sway Lee, Khalid, like you're collaborating with so many different people in different genres. Like, how are you feeling about that? I mean, is that something that you excites you? Like, do you prefer that?
Like for me, or, you know, like Kelsey said, I was kind of iffy about it at first. But as you grow on an artist, you just learn not to care about what anybody thinks. You don't want to get stuck in a box. And so for me, I just have fun now. And, you know, just release whatever I want. an artist, like I'll usually write a song and I can kind of tell if what artist is going to sound decent. We've got lucky and nobody's turned us down yet when we've asked, which I feel like I kind of know my boundaries as well. And, you know, but yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, like how do you decide who do you want to collab with, and you know, if it's out of, especially if it's not in the country genre. Like, are you guys in the studio like, man, this song would sound so dope with like Sway Lee on it, and like you just figure it out?
I just kind of listen to the song. I know the Marshmello one. I had a song when I wrote One Thing Right, and me and him was talking about doing a song together, and I told him I love this song, and I felt like he could do something with it. So I just sent him the lyrics. There was no demo to it or anything, and he loved the lyrics, and you know, just came up with it. And then the Sway Lee and Khalid, you know, I was on Saturday nights with Khalid on the remix. So I told him, I was like, man, that song was big off our streaming numbers, and it wasn't even new. It was already out. So I was like, imagine us doing a song together that was brand new. And Charlie Hanson was a writer on that, and so he had Sway Lee on there. So I said, my job is to get Khalid on there. And Khalid was in Japan and everywhere. He's all over the place. So I got lucky enough to get him on the song. So yeah, it's just been, you know, just meeting people at the right time. Same with John Legend. I met him on The Voice, and we talked about writing a song, and it just, you know, we talked about our wives. The same relationship basically, and it just, you know, just happened.
Who do you want to collab with that you haven't collabed? Do you have like a list, like the collab list?
Kelsea.
Ryan, Kelsea, okay.
Yeah.
There it is.
No, there's a
Ryan,
bunch of artists though.
Ryan
Yeah,
and Phil are
Ryan.
writing it with you, and there you go. This is it.
Yeah,
This
here
is
we
a
go.
session. This is a Zoom session in an hour.
That's four
Yeah,
right
I love
here.
it.
Let's go.
I love that. I've heard you rap. We're talking about Ashley Tisdale. We will not play that song on the Zoom. Well, Ryan, like, so, like, I don't know if there's a genre you haven't worked in at this point, right? Like, I mean, whether, you know, obviously rock, R&B, pop, country, even, you know, Christian music, like everything, right? So like, I feel like, how is your approach different when you're going in with an artist? I mean, like, how do you prepare for that? You know, when you have to like switch gears. I mean, I know for a fact that like you'll be in one day with like an R&B artist, and the next day in with, you know, someone who's completely on the other spectrum genre wise. Like, is it like a total mental shift? Like, how do you prepare for that?
Sometimes it is a mental shift. My songwriting, like the craft of songwriting, I learned in Nashville, but then I immediately got thrown in. I got signed by Timbaland, so who was my God at that point. So I lived with him basically for the better part of 2 years, following him around the country while he was doing Cry Me a River and Missy Elliott and Nelly Furtado. So I got to see him kind of at his zeitgeist moment. And so by the time you met me, like, I was in this band that was like Britpop with hip hop, like, but I was making money producing hip hop. I was selling beats, and that's, so I'm a byproduct of the randomness of life, not because I chose to do that or because of anything. If I could have had my way, I would have been an Oasis and it would have been a rap. But that's not how it panned out. And, you know, to go back to what I said a minute ago, I think the thing is, I don't like, once I know that if I start to think, okay, I figured this out, whatever it is, I figured out this box, I figured it out, and I had some success in this box. Probably the better business move would be to focus on this box and keep hammering away at it. But I do the opposite. I'm just like, I don't want to do that anymore. I did that. Like, I want a new challenge. I'm only comfortable when I'm uncomfortable. So that's probably why I do it. And now I'm more accustomed to it. I knew that we were doing this panel this week, and when I saw what the topic was, I kind of laughed, because the beginning of last week, just to walk you through it, Monday was The Kid Laroi, Tuesday was Ozzy Osbourne, and then Wednesday I was doing a Christmas song with Gwen Stefani, and then One Republic stuff. So that feeds me. That keeps me interested in doing music. If you haven't figured out, I have very short attention span. And so the only way I like that I can function is if I can dip my toes into different genres, but I think the key is if you're going to cross genre, you have to bring what it is that you do that's specific to you, but you have to have respect and at least do a little research to know what you're about to get into. You know, so for instance, like if I'm going to do a session, I'm familiar with Kane's music, but you know, I know all the hits that he's had. I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to listen to more music. When Kelsey and I had sessions last year with Shane, me and her, I did like the days leading up to it. I did a deep dive on Kelsea Ballerini. I knew the obvious songs. I wanted to know some of like the subject matter that she writes about, like what's the key that she sings in. I mean, I try to get really specific, and I'm not coming in there and slinging a bunch of whack ideas that are just like, man, that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like I'm trying to show up and show respect for whatever that is. So the other day, and I'll leave it with this, and I was going in last minute. I got a call at 11 from Watt. Hey, do you want to do an Aussie session? When? Now. And I was like, okay. So like I'm driving over there. He's like, we need some lyrics and some melodies. And I was like, what's the vibe? He's like, think like Soundgarden meets something else. And I was like, well, that I know. And so I'm driving to his house, like blasting Black Sabbath. And,
Right.
you know, who's not an Ozzy fan. So I had to kind of get in Ozzy's mindset to prep for that session. So that's really what it's about. Like have respect for the genre that you're trying to cross into. And like Kane said, if it's not fun, it's probably not going to work. It needs, at the end of the day, this isn't a real job. We're all just kidding ourselves. This is not a job. We're having the best time. So.
Indeed. And I'm glad you said the thing about bringing yourself to the session. I really honestly think that's the key to writing cross genre, is that, you know, it's like when someone's bringing you in from another genre, they're not bringing you in to do what they do. They do what they do. They're bringing you in to bring what you do, and to not get lost trying to be something you're not. Just really bring what you're great at into that session and kind of add to the recipe, the sauce that's there. You know,
that's critical. That's critical. If you went to the grocery store and you bought cinnamon and it turned into salt right before you put it in the soup, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to pretend to be what they are. That's the critical thing to working in different genres.
You put cinnamon in your soup?
I don't know. It's allergy, man. Come on.
Phil, so not even crossing genres, I feel like you cross not time zones, but like time eras. Like I feel like you're a time traveler. Like some of the music you've done feels like it was made 40 years ago, but yet it's still so relevant now. Like how do you approach that? How do you get that? How do you like capture that nostalgic feel? Right. And like, you know, that's what I like. I mean, you know, Uptown Funk, there's so many songs that feel like they were made in a different era, but they feel like they're made now, you know, and they also combine genres at the same time. Is there a key to that?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of to what Ryan was speaking about. You know, it's respect. You know, you gotta come in and gotta come with the respect of the genre you want to play in, and do your homework, listen, study, honor, pray, like all that stuff, because you know you never want to be so frivolous with something like that. When you're dancing with different genres, and especially like sometimes we go to the 50s, 60s, you know, some of the 70s, and some of the greatest music that's ever been made, you know, is from the past. So if you're gonna kind of dip your toe in that, make sure, you know what I mean, you got some Air Force Ones when you know what I mean, make sure you're dipping it the right way, and you know you give it the respect. So I think, you know, for us, like, you know, approaching especially 24 karat, you know, we wanted to make sure that everything was analog. So we wanted to make sure we had all the keyboards that these artists used to use. We had the drum kits, we had everything that we could imagine, you know, to set the scene of we're in the 90s now. And we don't have access to everybody in the current day has. So let's move accordingly. So, you know, when you come with that kind of mindset, obviously, you know, it's going to take a lot longer, you know, because you're inputting everything through a big board, and it's, you know, sometimes we ran through things through tape, you know, which nobody does anymore, but it harkens back on a particular sound, you know, when you do these things that they did back in those days. And, you know, it takes a long time because you really want to pay homage to this, but you also want to do something. You also want to bring yourself to the session. You want to put your spin and your energy and your, you know, your flavor onto whatever it is that you're creating. So I think, you know, to summarize, it's respect and paying attention to the details and bringing yourself to the situation.
I like that. I agree with that. Kelsea, you know, when you're writing in the different worlds of like the pop LA writers and the Nashville sessions, what's the, I don't want to make it sound controversial here, so you know, if you don't have anything good to say, but no, what's the biggest difference between, like, you know, the more pop leading sessions and the Nashville leading session? Is there a difference? Like, do you feel like you're in a different process?
The biggest difference that I've noticed, and I haven't written too much out here in LA, but the ones that I have, I think there's almost like less expectation of the artist to actually be the writer. And so I've found that everyone, like the producers and the songwriters that I've worked with, they come in like overly prepared because they don't really expect, I guess, me to be as much of a songwriter. And whereas in Nashville, it's like, if you're walking in a session, you're a songwriter, you know what I mean? And it's been really nice though, because there's so much more energy and ideas and inspiration in the room when everyone's just like at level 10 with all this, you know, energy and these ideas coming into it. And it also challenges me to step up and be able to cut through that and still have my identity and my voice and my, you know, my story and my songwriting come in and cut through in that kind of room. So it is different for me, but it challenges me more in a really healthy way. I think it helps me grow a lot.
Speaking to your voice, like, how important is it for you to like bring an idea into the session? Is that something you always do? Like, you come into the session, you're like, I want to write about this, or these are the things going on in my life, or I have a title, or I have a line or something? Or do you kind of just like it's the hang and it comes from it?
I think it's kind of my job. I didn't used to be that way. I would have like a list of titles or something and think that was good enough. But then I would find that I get a song that I like but not love. And now I think it's my job to come in with something that I'm really excited about, really passionate about, and want to write. Just because I also like don't want to waste anyone's time, and it's going to be more authentic for everyone, you know? That being said, like if I was writing for someone else, I feel like have no filter and be open to everything else in the room. But yeah, when I'm writing for me, I think it's my job to show up with an idea. And I've also gotten better about, if the tank's empty, the tank's empty. And when my tank's empty, I know that I need to go like have a girls' night and have too much tequila, or take a road trip with my husband, or call my mom and dad. Like, I need something to write about. And I think that's also a lesson as a young songwriter or a young artist to have, where the grind is so much of it getting started. You want to outrun, you want to prove everyone wrong and right and all those things, that I think sometimes you try to operate and write on an empty tank, and you don't get the stuff that you could get if you take a beat and live your life and then write about it.
Yeah, I get that. Kane, do you bring ideas into sessions? Is that something that you think about prior to?
I used to be really good about it, and now I kind of just like listen to the instrumentation somebody brings in a room and just kind of get the feel of it. And that's kind of how I get my titles now. Or if we don't have anything, I'll usually just start a conversation. That's what sucks about Zoom, is that energy's not there. So like I'll carry on a conversation. We just had a write in Nashville with Julia Michaels, and luckily she brought a title, but we came up with another song just by having a conversation. And we said something that we were like, ooh, that could be a song right there. And then we wrote that next. So
what happens if someone brings an idea in and you don't like it? Is that like an awkward?
Oh, I tell them I'm not trying to waste their time, and I don't want them to waste my time. So I'm just like, I don't like that. You know what I mean? I'm not about to write it. Nah.
Right. Is there any piece of like advice you would give somebody as like an artist who's going into, you know, a new artist that's starting, like starting to collaborate with people, like really just on the up and coming path? Like, what's the best piece of advice you could give them?
I'd say just be yourself. Like I said earlier, don't put yourself in a box. You know, kind of lead the charge with what you want to do. If somebody's trying to, you know, make you turn left and you don't want to turn left, just keep going straight or turn right. Just always follow your heart. You know, anything you do is just make sure you want to do it and not somebody telling you to do it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, obviously you've done that, so congrats. Right. what are your writing do's and don'ts? Like, what are your advice to the up and coming writer, up and coming artist, writers who want to be artists?
Do's and don'ts. I think first of all, to what Kane said, you do need to have a clear understanding of what you want to say and your point of view, because what people fall in love with is not, the song obviously, but at the end of the day, I've written enough times with artists where we might end up with a hit at the end of a session that everyone thinks is a hit. But if that artist isn't fully signed on to that concept, or if there was something that just didn't feel authentic, no matter how good the song is, those songs 99 times out of 100 end up not coming out, or they go from first single to not on the album. We've all experienced that.
Or for you, more often than not, a hit for one artist becomes a hit for a different artist.
Well, I do try to do that. I've been known to do that. I've been known to do that a few times. Okay, cool. You don't want this? All right. But I think you have to have I think POV, point of view, is critical. I think you have to trust your gut. You have to know if you're an artist and you're in a writing session, you have to have a voice. You have to be loud enough to speak up and say when you don't like something. Because like to Kane's point, man, like don't waste anyone's time. Like don't lead us down a path, or let a song get written and then the producer spends all night working on the track and then it's like I wasn't even thinking about singing this anyway. Like I've had that happen, like it happens. I think if you're trying to be a writer, ultimately you need to figure out what your skill set is. You need to make sure that the thing that you're really good at, you are untouchable at. And then the other thing that I push my songwriters to be, for as long as I've run a publishing company, I always preach the benefit of being a Swiss Army knife. I think that it's great if I work with writers who only do lyrics, and I've worked with writers, producers who can't do a lyric or a melody to save their life, but they can put together a track. But I came from the Nashville School of Songwriting. So in that world, like to Kelsey's point, if you walk in the room, you know how to write a damn song. You can contribute lyric. You can maybe you don't play guitar, which is even that's pretty rare these days in Nashville, but like you understand how to write a song. So I think that in these days now, like even if it's not guitar, figure out how to work Ableton, figure out how to work Pro Tools or Logic, whatever your tool is, your instrument is. Get really, 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 really good at it, and take as much time as you can and put in the 10,000, make it 20,000 hours in all of those pots. So music and arrangement, study the chord arrangements of hit songs that you like, memorize those patterns, memorize the shape of songs, the verse, the pre, the chorus, all these things, they don't happen by accident. And there's a reason that songs feel so, there's like a kind of a euphoria you get when all those things connect properly. And I think that understanding those is critical, and understanding the patterns, the consistencies of great records and hit records. Also knowing when to break the rules, because I've also written with writers who are like, so sticular and precise, and you need to listen to the artist too, and let them lead the way. Because why else are you in the room? If you're not going to let the artist steer the ship creatively, you're there to assist. We're facilitators. We're not steering the boat. We're the guy in the other seat that's holding the map. And so that's our job.
I love that. That's great. Phil, what are your go-to pieces of advice? Like what's the Law by Philip Lawrence?
I used to have like a whole spiel, but right now I'm just going to say copy, paste what Ryan just said. Come on, man.
No, you can't. I want to hear the spiel. You can't get that's no, not letting you off the hook.
Oh man, I really don't have a spiel, man. I think you got to work hard. There's nothing that will substitute your commitment to your craft. You have to show up every single day. It has to be something that you eat, breathe, sleep. Because this is going to be a business that is really, really hard to find success in. And you're going to get no's far more than you're going to get a yes. And if you're not built for that, and if you don't have this sort of innate belief that you belong in the room, that you're supposed to be there, that you do have something to offer, then it's going to be really hard for you. So I think that confidence builds the harder you work. You know, when I moved to LA, I thought I was, you know, really good. And I found out I was not. You know what I mean? I had a lot of work to do, I had a lot to learn, you know, and I think that through trial and error and through, you know, finding yourself in these kind of dark spaces where everyone's just like, I don't know, man, I don't think you got it. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people go home, you know, but I believed in myself. I was like, I don't care what you think. I know I got it. Let me keep pushing. Let me keep going. So, you know, so belief in yourself, don't give up, and honor your craft. Study, learn, work. That's it. And copy paste Ryan Tedder.
Copy paste Ryan Tedder. And don't sell yourself short. I met you soon after you got to LA, and you were pretty dope back then. So, you know. Kelsey, yeah, for sure. Thanks. Kelsey, what are your go-tos? Like, what are your rules of writing, collaborating?
Well, two things. One is comparison, thief of joy, 100%. When you start comparing yourself to other songwriters and artists, you are looking in the wrong direction. When you're looking outward instead of inward, you're moving in the wrong direction. And I think that I've struggled a lot with that in my career, where I'm like, oh, wow, I'm going to study this artist because I love their career. And in turn, I start sounding like this artist, and that's not the point at all, you know? So I think, again, trusting yourself. And then also, advice I would give is there are a lot of very talented people in Nashville, in LA, and London, and New York, and in the world. And that's wonderful. But not everyone's willing to work for it. And I think the people that are equally as talented, but even more so willing to just show up and be overly prepared and be meticulous and be kind and write thank you notes, and then like email the new writer that no one knows about yet, and then also like try to get in with the big writer too. Like, those are the people that are going to find a different kind of success than the ones that are just super talented, that are killing it, but it's going to be different, you know?
Yeah, I could see that. You guys, such great advice. I feel like everybody watching this has just gotten this golden masterclass. Thank you so much. It looks like our time has come to an end. I would just like to say a big thank you to Kane and to Kelsey and Philip and Ryan for taking the time to share with us. A special thank you to the LA and Nashville chapter staff, Alicia and Qiana. And thank you to all who participated via Facebook Live. Stay safe, everyone. Keep writing. Take care. Bye.